Hello. Today I'll be speaking a little bit about virtual gaming environments and the new interface for supporting outcomes for individuals with disabilities. My name is Dr. Jen Gallup, and I'm from Idaho State University, located in Pocatello, Idaho. Pocatello, Idaho is known for, well, all of Idaho is known for our famous potatoes and the beautiful mountains, and most importantly, West Yellowstone. So I began my interest in video games and research in video games to support individuals with disabilities, most specifically individuals with autism, because I'm a parent of a child with autism. My son, one day, while we were sitting on the beach in Florida, he said, "Mom, I'd really like to be included and socialized, but I just don't know how." And I knew that when we got Tristan together in somewhat contrived situations, they would play video games together or they would play other games, and I noticed that his communication and his ability to socialize had increased. So I started down the path using phenomenological research, qualitative, both quantitative and survey research. And so I'm going to introduce you to the research here. These are some quotes from one of the participants that I had in my research. This is a young man who has autism, just graduated high school, moved into a post-secondary transition program specific to individuals who have autism. And he said that if it weren't for the internet and online gaming, I wouldn't be as comfortable in social situations as I am now. It's not that we don't socialize, but we don't conventionally socialize. And just because they are not using a language that we can understand, it's not that they are communicating or speaking. And I found this very fascinating because he was referring to they or them as individuals with autism. And he had found that by using online internet-based games or MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, he had developed the ability to communicate, socialize, develop relationships and friendships in the context of a game, and be more comfortable in social situations. So let's look at some of the current outcomes for individuals with disabilities. Right now, about 71% of individuals with disabilities who enter a college or post-secondary transition program, university, or technical college do not finish with a degree. And this can be attributed to a lack of friendships, social interactions, support, and community involvement. When we look at a small subset of this population, individuals with autism, only about 54% of this group graduate high school. They hold the third lowest matriculation rate to college, and only 3% live independently, largely due to the fact that they struggle with socialization, friendships, and support networks. And we know that success in post-secondary education specific to typically developing individuals is predicated on their ability to develop friendships, support networks, and be integrated within the community. We know that they need to establish friendships early on. And if they don't have these friendships early on, it's the number one reason why individuals without a disability drop out of post-secondary education. So can you imagine if it is that important or difficult for individuals without a disability, what it might be like for an individual with a disability, specifically autism? So one such method that's gaining a lot of attention out there that I feel is critical for us to take a look at are virtual environments, or MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, as they offer supports to socialize. You know, if we take a look at the way that we're communicating, most people are communicating in virtual environments. There's really been a paradigm shift in the way that we communicate, develop relationships, develop interpersonal relationships, socialize. If you think about it, most of us send an email every day, communicate via FaceTime, Skype, or even Facebook with people that we don't often see. And many of these virtual environments and video games or MMORPGs encourage the socialization. They provide an immersive social context that have activities that are part of the gaming experience. And these activities are considered highly social, where gamers rapidly learn social skills that could generalize to social relationships outside of the gaming environment. Some of these skills also include the ability to collaborate, communicate, develop skills to solve complex problems through time and task management and collaboration within their teams. And it's interesting, when we look across the globe, 200 million people worldwide play MMORPGs or massively multiplayer online role-playing games. And the average gamer games 21 hours a week, which is about 3 hours a day, and perhaps maybe more in the weekend for our teenagers. And 99% of boys and 94% of girls play video games. And these video games played, about 80% of the time that they're playing these games, it requires social groupings, social interactions, and collaboration with others in the context of what they call a guild or a clan. A guild or a clan is comprised of up to 9 individuals, usually 4 to 6 individuals, who have to work together collaboratively in the context of a game, being very social, communicating, collaborating, working on a very tight time schedule. Task management skills are required. They need to combine tools and resources within the game to solve complex problems, to complete these quests in the game, to level up and move forward. And without the ability to work collaboratively in these social groupings, there isn't often the advancements in the game that most players are looking for. So as you can see, the game provides opportunities to socialize, develop these skills in an environment that they find safe and conducive to their needs, and it removes those extraneous variables for them. Some environments or games that they work in are MMORPGs, such as World of Warcraft. And in the context of World of Warcraft, they can physically see each other if they turn on an app such as Skype, or even a Google Hangout in the game, or if they want a higher level of anonymity, they can use an app called Ventrilo. Additionally, in the context of the game, gamers can have a running chat, as you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner of the game, so that they're communicating through text-based interactions as well. And additionally, they see each other's avatars. You can see the little green and the red above the avatars. They're seeing each other's avatar, which also provides, again, that layer of anonymity where they can role play or assume an identity that works best for them. Another MMORPG is Minecraft. Minecraft is also seen in schools through Minecraft EDU. Again, this is an environment where individuals can work on skills such as communicating, collaborating, task management, time management. And the fun thing about Minecraft EDU is they can learn any content presented in the context of the game, such as math, science, history, and English, while working collaboratively on teams in these different worlds and having to work together, again, to solve these problems or these technical habits of mind that come into play, again, in the context of the game. And these, again, are skills that are required for post-secondary education, success in independent living, success in the job, and success for community integration for better outcomes. So through some of the studies that I did, I've completed 4 thus far, and I'd like to just give you a summary of the research done through the qualitative, quantitative, and survey research. I started looking again at a social phenomenon related to the virtual video gaming, understanding the soft skills, social skills related to the virtual gaming environment and how they were used in the context of friendship development, academics, and post-secondary education, looking at emotional recognition, friendship development, and virtual gaming environments. And then lastly, I've been working understanding the augmented virtual reality, which is an environment such as Pokemon Go that blends virtual reality and face-to-face environments. Now, this game requires the individual to leave the context of their home, meet up with other participants in the community, and work together to complete tasks in the game and level up. So this moves the individuals out of that fully immersive online environment into a face-to-face environment. Data were collected through multi-source data, interviews, observations, and document analysis. And a brief summary includes that all of the participants with autism actively sought out friendships, social interactions. They used the virtual environment as a way to overcome the barriers to the face-to-face interaction, learning how to better interact and communicate with people prior to moving to that face-to-face interaction. They would develop that trust, the relationship, and build that common ground. They use the environment, again, to get to know the other people and then move into the face-to-face, such as meeting at a clan event, a guild event, a conference event, or even a Pokemon Go rally. All participants described emotions and used and recognized and reciprocated emotions with their guild members, often attaching emojis to help amplify what they were feeling. All of the participants also described opportunities to learn skills and how to better communicate through the feedback that they received from their guild members, as well as the agents or computer-mediated feedback in the game. Often the game will pop up. It's better to interact or be friendly with your team members. That way you're able to accomplish tasks. And then as they're working with their team members in the context of the game, the team members can also give them critical feedback on how to communicate, collaborate, and work together, or use those social and soft skills that are necessary for post-secondary transition, especially the soft skills required in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And these are the same skills, again, that we need for employment, independent living, and community engagement for better outcomes. So let's take a look at what another participant had to say. And he was describing how comfortable a virtual environment helped him be with developing the friendships. So this one participant said, the benefits of being in a clan is that you get to know people. It encourages you to socialize. And the random interactions over time help you get to trust them more, get to know their personality, and it becomes easier to get a conversation going. This is fascinating, again, because this is a young man with autism. He was 17 at the time that I interviewed him, in high school, getting ready to transition to a college-based program, again, for individuals with autism. He had an IQ that was also considered gifted, and he also had ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So this individual used his clan and his group to help him get to know each other and build these interactions over time to develop the trusting relationship. Again, removing those extraneous variables such as, crowded rooms, travel to and from, having to navigate the public transportation system if they can't drive, the anxiety over travel. Understanding that they can portray who they want to be through the role identity of the actual avatar in the game, and then getting to know people as they let their guard down. And through this research, again, I just want to reiterate that I found that social phenomena where they all wanted to engage in social relationships, build those friendships, and be ingrained in the community where they had that emotional awareness and were able to reciprocate emotion, developing these social and soft skills that had generalized to academic settings, employment settings, as well as community integration and independent living. And then looking at the most recent study that I've conducted, Pokemon Go, realizing that Pokemon Go is an augmented virtual reality that bridges that fully online virtual medium with the face-to-face medium, and looking at play as an essential component to any child's life, and really that our young adults in transition still enjoy getting out and using technology to communicate and play with each other to help develop the relationships, because technology is ubiquitous and a necessary part of daily living. And so my question is, how do we effectively utilize this technology, these gaming environments, the augmented virtual environments, to help individuals with disabilities develop these friendships, support networks, and relationships that will help them be successful, along with the soft skills and social skills in a post-secondary education setting that will yield better lifelong outcomes. So in this study, phase 1 was a survey that was conducted at a Pokemon Go rally. We had an N of 500, and out of that, we had 148 that were diagnosed with autism, depression, anxiety, or comorbid diagnoses in the study. And including the brief summary here, we had 75% that had an increase in their socialization habits. And of that, 50% of those individuals that were diagnosed with autism noted that they were significantly more social prior to prior to their gaming experience with Pokemon Go. The participants attributed their increase in socialization directly to Pokemon Go because the game required them to go out and engage with the community, to leave their house, to practice that socialization with their peers. And again, 50% had an increase in the number of times that they left their house to engage with peers. Prior to playing Pokemon Go, they were only leaving their house 1 to 2 times a week. And after playing Pokemon Go, they were actively leaving 5 or more times a week. And this was not just to like go to the store or go to school. These were times in addition to having to complete an obligation. So again, Pokemon Go is described as the reason participants were more social. It was part of the increase to socialization as well as other games, primarily the MMORPGs. And the MMORPGs included games such as that World of Warcraft, Minecraft, and then again blended with the augmented virtual reality Pokemon Go. And as you can see here in the picture, if you take a look at the picture here, you can see the Pokemon Go overlays a map of where you're moving around or navigating to collect the Pokemon within your community. So in addition to learning the social skills, the soft skills, participants in the game are also learning routes in their community, how to navigate their community, and finding different landmarks in the community, because often the Pokemon are stationed at different landmarks in the community. So there are multiple benefits to playing these games and getting out. Phase 2 included the qualitative part of the study, where we interviewed now thus far 6 participants. And our findings, again, were commensurate with what we have found before, that they had a recognition and reciprocation of emotions, they were developing friendships, and they had a better role identification of themselves in the game and as it transferred to outside the game. And additionally, the findings supported a reduction in the depression, anxiety, and an increase in their social engagement. And again, we found it fascinating that the participants recognized skills that they were learning in the context of the game and not being directly taught as influenced by an evidence-based practice delivered, such as, social skills interventions, peer-mediated instruction, or video modeling. One of our participants said that he enjoyed Pokemon Go because it gave him a reason to try and interact with different people that he didn't know. It helped him learn how to cope with difficult people and challenging situations and appropriately deal with those people. So this here told us that the game and the feedback from the peers and the agents in the game helped these individuals learn how to interact, gave them a reason to move out into the community and interact, and potentially work with difficult or people that were hard to deal with in an appropriate manner. So not only were they not being delivered an evidence-based practice to learn these skills, they were learning the skills independently in the context of the game and transferring them to other situations. And this again reaffirmed the previous research that we had been doing, that the individuals were learning the skills, they were learning to communicate and generalize it to face-to-face. The video games, we know, may foster real-world psychosocial benefits. And it's fascinating that when we look back to 1995, Steve Jobs said that the web was a social key component to computing, and he felt that it would open up a whole new way for communicating, and it was a medium for which he could say something in. And if we think back to the first clip that I shared with you, my participant with autism had noted that the internet was the reason for him being more social and was the reason for him learning how to communicate and develop these relationships. And perhaps, given the fact that we're using the internet now to communicate and they're building relationships in the context of a virtual environment, it's time for us to consider a different definition of friendship. Perhaps it's time for us to consider how we might harness the power of the internet to help these participants develop friendships, develop communication, develop soft and social skills to help them be more successful in post-secondary education. Because if you think about it, in the 1800s, we were communicating via letter, and now we're doing it via email. And sometimes now, we communicate with people frequently over the internet, but yet we don't see them but once every 1 to 5 years. And that's how it was back in the 1800s. So not necessarily that we're digressing, we're just using different mediums to communicate. And so how will this help us in the future? Again, looking at a summary of what has happened, all of our participants described friendships, social interactions, and emotions, understanding roles in the environments. This is the critical key component to post-secondary success. It has been identified as the critical key component for typically developing peers. And we know that it is a critical key component for individuals with disabilities. We just need to find a medium that works best for them to build these relationships, friendships, and support networks to be successful in post-secondary settings. And perhaps the current steady Pokemon Go may be inadequate to account for all the social possibilities and opportunities to connect with community using the augmented virtual reality. But it really begins to describe a rich understanding of the social interactions that are possible in the augmented virtual reality, and the initial understanding of the social interactions within the context of an augmented virtual reality really can yield information about the potential of the social and friendship connections, support networks, and other skills used in the virtual environment that are similar to those that we need for everyday living, for STEM education to be successful, again, in that post-secondary setting, and to be engaged within the community. So our future direction, really when considering the length that we have been harnessing the power of the internet and the evolution of communication and friendship development, it makes sense to consider alternate mediums and acceptable methods to develop friendship, support networks, and alternate definitions of friendship that may be more commensurate with online mediums that utilize the internet. Because if you take a look at this chart here that I've developed, we have the same skills used in a gaming environment that are parallel to the skills required for STEM. And these skills are the same skills required for independent living, function within a community, and success within a job. And if we take a look at these skills, if our individuals with disabilities can learn these skills in the context of a gaming environment, transfer them to these other outcomes such as employment and living, we can hope for better outcomes for our individuals with disabilities utilizing an environment that is already part of their naturally based daily interaction. As you saw, most people are playing these video games. Because again, the benefits of gaming, the games are highly social. Several individuals are interacting in the context of the game. They can have repeated interactions within the game that don't require humans to be there delivering the evidence-based practice. They can get peer-mediated and computer agent feedback. And again, there's a small but significant body of research that's begun to emerge. And so our goal is to really harness the power of the internet, harness the power of these games, and find a way to effectively implement the games for the individuals with disabilities to help them learn these skills in the context of the games that they're already playing and generalize them to academics, independent living, and post-secondary education so that they have better lifelong outcomes through friendships, developing the relationships through all the connections that are possible with today's web. So I encourage you to take a look at some of the options out there, explore them, and help our students with disabilities have better outcomes for the future by harnessing the power of technology, specifically the game. Thank you. I look forward to answering questions.